I'm David Esrati. I am running for Congress in Ohio 10. That includes all of Montgomery County, part of Clark County, and all of Greene County. So, today for a subject I picked, intimidation. Oh, you know what's happening? Somebody forgot to give me a microphone. Great.
I got you on the
I,
track.
we've got me on the shotgun, I guess. So hopefully you can hear it, but you're probably hearing a bunch of other stuff too. Anyway, sorry about that. It's been a busy day. I still have a business to run. So intimidation was what I wanted to talk about today, and people will say, what do you mean by that? Well, about 30 years ago, when I first ran against Mike Turner for mayor, there was some other guy running for president or thinking about it or doing it again. His name was Ross Perot, and he announced in front of a crowd of 3,000 people that, hey, he had been threatened with death by a mafia-like organization that was pro-NAFTA, and he was anti-NAFTA. And the FBI said there were 2 credible threats, but there's no way of tracking them back. Nowadays, 2 would be like nothing. I mean, that happens all the time. You get lots of things. You get the Proud Boys and all these 3%ers and other people out saying, oh, they want to hang the vice president. So we have an issue in America, and it's only getting worse. And that is, we had people who voted to impeach Trump, who were Republicans, who then chose not to run again, who were intimidated, who their families were threatened. This stuff is not okay. It's not the way our system's supposed to work. It's not how it's not good for democracy, and it scares people away. I myself have been running since 1993, and way back when, the very first time I ran against Mike Turner for mayor of Dayton, he came in second, and then I went and ran for I have a microphone now. Hopefully that makes it sound a little better. Anyways, I ran for city commission because there was a special election when Mark Henry resigned. And the morning of the election, I got a call from somebody. I'm sitting at home, and they're like, oh, Mary Sue Kessler and Clay Dixon, and I forget who the other candidate was at this point, maybe Dick Zimmer. We're over on city property over at the Ottawa Street Yards campaigning. I'm like, huh? Oh, and remember, this is after Clay Dixon already took me out and tried to beat me up. But anyway, so I jump in my car and I drive over there, and I see them leaving the Ottawa Street Yards. Now, campaigning on city property is illegal, but they were doing it, and this was before I had video cameras, and we had cell phone cameras and all the rest of it, so I didn't have any evidence of it, but I followed them, and they go over to AFSCME headquarters over there on Gate Street, over by Wiley's Comedy Club. And I see the politicians leaving, and then this very large union chief, a man named Tom Ritchie Sr., starts walking to my car and screaming at me, and I back up towards him, and he throws his big gulp container, big mug, hits the back of my car. I'm rather pissed off, and I'm like, he says, get out of the car, get out of the car, I'm gonna kick your... I'm 30 years old. I'd just been out of reserves a couple of years. This fat turd I have no problems going head to head with. So I start to get out of the car. My mistake. I'm dealing with East Dayton white trash who decides to slam the car door on my leg and keep it there to stop me from getting out of the car. Hurt a little bit, but what hurt more was knowing that my only other option was to try to drive off and run him over, and that might have hurt too. So, Tom Ritchie has been a major part of the Democratic Party for a long time. And even though he lives in Florida, still is a precinct captain and still sits there and gloats at me. And still is a powerful force in the party. This is politics 101. Now, also during that summer, my office windows got smashed out not just one night, but the second night they came back and did it again. I got large plate glass windows. Those were expensive. It was covered under insurance, but it was to send a message. Don't run against the party. Don't ask questions. Don't cause trouble. So, this stuff happens. I'll continue with more stories firsthand. I don't have to stick with things like which we read in the New York Times or hear about today where people who are counting ballots have had death threats, people who are secretaries of state have had death threats, and the Republicans that voted to impeach Trump or voted, what was the other thing they were voting, to vote along with to pass the ballot, accept the ballots, etc. People like Anthony Gonzalez, they said they don't want their families threatened anymore. And some of them have stopped they didn't run for re-election. So, need another example? So, there was a building downtown, the Sears building, been there for years. Been vacant, and it was bought by Mr. Sandy Mendelson and 5 partners. They bought that building for $200,000. The land that it was on, they purchased an option for 5 years out for $1.5 million. And it was the Sears property, which is where Reynolds and Reynolds had their building. Now I think it's Deloitte and Touche is in there and somebody else, right across from the ballpark, across the way where Riverscape is. And then there was a tunnel underneath the road. And on the other side, there was a little parking lot for the auto service center. And what happened was Metro Parks announced their plans for the fountains downtown. And one of the fountains was in that little quadrant parking lot on the northeast side of Riverside as you're going across the bridge. So the county says, yeah, we'd like to buy that little piece of land. And Mendelson, his partner, said it's $3.4 million. You got to buy the whole thing. They said, oh, forget that. We just need that little bit. They said, okay, it'll be $4.6 million. Oh, no, we'll take it by eminent domain. $5.8 million says you won't. Oh, yes, we will. Okay, $6.4 million. You know, it kept going up. Finally, after going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, they paid $8.2 million. And I couldn't do anything to stop it. It wasn't up to me, but I could stop the city commission from voting on it as an emergency, and I threatened to file a suit that had said, if you do this as an emergency, I'm going to stop this with a lawsuit. And I would only delay it. It wouldn't stop it. And I was in the process of getting that going, and one of the things I had done was called Mr. Mendelson up because he had given me $500 for my campaign. I think I was running against Bootsy Neal at the time. Can't really remember. This is probably 98, 99, somewhere in there. And so I called him up because he said, call me after the election. And he says, go to hell, MF. You costed me a lot of money. I'm one of the owners of Sears, and you're trying to file a lawsuit. I'm like, Mr. Mendelson, let's calm down here. Can we sit down and talk about this? He says, okay, meet me at Franco's. So we meet Franco's for lunch. And he says, look, I'm going to make a lot of money if we buy that building. And you're going to stop that. And I don't want that. And look, nobody cares. So you can file that lawsuit and find your body parts in different area codes. Or you can take some work from me and put a few bucks in your pocket. And one time in my life, I did something that I really shouldn't have. I said, nobody else cares about this. I took on Mendelson as a client. And I made him a lot of money. I rebranded him. I came up with the tagline, the first place to look for every last thing. I had the safari character walking through the store. Did the whole thing, rebranded him, and did quite well. And still learned that he was an awful human being. And I even said so after he died. And sort of got in trouble for that, but the things I saw from him were pretty terrible. Like one time he had his son in tears over selling something for $25 too little to a customer, and his father was screaming at his son out in front of the store. So, he said something that basically has shown up multiple times for my business, is that, no, if you piss off the establishment in this town, you will not get work in this town. You will be blackballed. I've heard it from multiple clients. I've had it used to leverage to get lower prices on my services. That's not a good thing, folks. And now it's gotten to the extremes. It's hard enough to put your life out in front of everybody and run for office and have people think that they have the right to crawl it up your butt with a microscope. And we've seen that time and time again. We've seen Me Too things come back from 15, 20 years ago, and people like Al Franken resigning from Congress for some sort of issue with something he said to a woman one time, whereas Donald Trump said he'll grab the woman right by the you-know-what, and he still gets elected. Something has gone wrong with our sense of morality, duty to country, honor, integrity, that we throw this stuff around and stop treating people like people. And when you get right down to it, people are what make America great. Not Donald Trump, not the politicians. People being Americans, taking care of each other, looking out for each other, talking to each other, working together for shared common goals. And those don't include making sure that black people don't eat at the same lunch counter or drink from the same water fountain, or gay people can't express their love for each other, or transgender people can't be themselves. America was the place where you came to escape all that Puritanism, all that insanity, the controls, where we had freedom to be ourselves. Now, I don't know what's going to happen in this election. More than likely, Turner won't take me seriously unless I raise $1 million. I'm still going to challenge him to a series of debates, at least 3, one in each county that he claims to represent. He'll probably only do one if he does one at all. In a debate, there are lots of things Mike Turner and I can talk about. But the intimidation factor, the vindictiveness of Mike Turner is something you should know about, because he makes sure people know whose side they're on. People are afraid to donate to me because Mike Turner will come after them. He won't give them handouts. They'll risk their government contracts. They'll miss their economic development money. They won't get grants from, this organization or that organization, or even legislation. Mike Turner works purely pay to play. It's not unlike others who've been mayor of Dayton, who we will find out eventually how bad it was if the FBI and the DOJ ever do their job. But vindictiveness and intimidation is way too prevalent in politics, not just in this community, in the country as a whole. We like to ascribe to higher standards, but we don't live them. I'm David Esrati, and I'm here to answer your questions. If you have any questions, put them in the stream. If you don't get them in the stream today and you want to put the questions in comments, or you watch this later, I'm happy to answer them tomorrow. I want to thank Bill Mavar for thanking me for this topic yesterday, which was talking about finding a middle ground, and pointing out an amazing article in the New York Times about how somebody from the CDC ended up being best friends with the guy who basically wrote the Dickey Amendment, Representative Dickey. I can't remember his first name right now. I'll not get that right off the bat, but they found common ground and came together and even reversed the Dickey Amendment to make sure that the CDC could research weapons and their effect on the public safety and public health of the community. Anyway, so feel free, leave comments. If not, remember, there's more information at electesrati.com. You can sign up to be on the newsletter. You can sign up to volunteer. You can sign up for a yard sign. And on top of all that, you can also donate. electisraeli.com/donate. We'll be here again tomorrow at 4. That's every day, Monday through Friday at 4, to answer your questions. And once I'm in Congress, I'll do the same thing, telling you what I did in Congress every day and getting your input and feedback. That's the way you become an elected representative instead of a politician. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.